welcome back to the Cash vs. Trash podcast with your hosts, Rob and
Demi, where we watch the highest and lowest grossing movie of each year from 1970 to 2021 picked at random, then decide if they deserve the title of either Cash or Trash.
That's right. And just before we get to the subject of this week's episode, I've got a little bit of housekeeping, only because Star Wars nerds would come after us with
Lightsabers.
pitchforks and torches. We didn't talk about how they did the lightsaber effect last week, which I would feel remiss if we didn't add it in somewhere. So this is part 2 of 1977, so no better place. As detailed in a 2004 featurette titled The Birth of the Lightsaber, the early sabers consisted of a rotating pole that had reflective tape applied to it, creating the glowing effect. Then, using rotoscoping technology, the overlays for the saber colors were added to the film, creating the first lightsaber effect. And it looks fucking sick.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it genuinely looks really good. Looks better than CGI because it was there. It was actually there.
Yeah.
And yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
So it's a reflective tape.
Yep. And they had to be careful because if they tilted it the wrong way, because they had to go in, like they rotoscoped the color and the light in, because or like they add to it. But if they did it wrong, then it would just look like a prop sword.
Yeah.
And all that. So yeah, pretty intense stuff. Like they did that back in 1977.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy stuff. Which I feel like it's a good idea to talk about that now, considering the movie we're talking about this week, which is the lowest grossing movie of 1977 to the best of our knowledge.
It was number 35 on the list. Usually we do out of the top 200, but this only went to 35.
Yes, because as we've said previously, we want it to be a fair fight, released in multiple countries, blah, 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 blah. We use boxofficemojo.com. If you're a regular listener, you'll know that. And normally we use thenumbers.com to corroborate that information, but Fraternity Row just wasn't there. Sorry, we're talking about Fraternity Row this week.
Yeah.
Horrible lead in to the movie, but yeah, it's on the title. Fraternity Row.
Yeah.
You've probably never heard of this movie. Fraternity Row is also the name of the street, I think, or like avenue or whatever. All the sorority and fraternity houses are on.
Like in real life.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. Oh, but I mean, I always thought that they were like all next to each other.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
But you hear about in like other movies and stuff, people buy a fraternity house.
I don't know.
I don't know how it works, man. I don't know. Anyway, there was no information on this movie around, so bear with us.
Yep.
Fraternity Row, an American drama film from 1977, and was to the best of our knowledge, lowest grossing movie that year. Starring Peter Fox as Roger Carter.
Usually I would say you might recognize this person from blah, 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 but Peter Fox.
Yeah.
Wasn't in a whole lot. He was in a few TV shows, like an episode or two scattered here and there. It
seems like he's the kind of guy that if you know who he is, you know a lot about him.
Yeah. So, like, I could have written down this, and this, but most people would be like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, it was like a lot of this TV movie or one episode of this show, or maybe like one season of this, but it didn't last very long, sort of thing. So we just left it and... who cares?
Yeah.
We'll get to it, but he did a good job. Like, we're not ragging on the guy, but, who cares? Gregory Harrison as Zach Sterling.
Okay, so you might recognize him from Trapper John, M.D.
Trapper John, M.D.
Picnic or Razorback?
I added in Razorback. I can't believe... I mean... it's very believable that you overlooked that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of these.
Trapper John doesn't really sound familiar. Picnic, Who knows?
Mm.
But Razorback, I actually watched when I was like 6, which my grandparents, such a bad idea. It's a horror movie set in the Australian outback about a like genetically altered boar. A genetically altered boar that basically just kills and eats a bunch of people. And it's not Boar. That's another Australian movie about a
Yeah, that
giant
sounds
boar.
similar.
This is in 1984, I think that was released, and he's the main character.
Mm.
Good movie from what I remember, but I was a child.
Yeah.
Scott Newman, son of Paul Newman, as Chunk Cherry.
You might recognize him from The Towering Inferno, Breakheart Pass, or also he was a stuntman.
Yes. Seems like he had a pretty extensive stuntman career.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which makes sense. He's a pretty big
Mm.
bulky guy. Not too surprising. Yeah.
Yeah.
Son of Paul Newman,
Yeah, his only son.
his only son.
That's what it said.
Directed by Thomas J. Tobin, known for the Swan Princess.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's like a kid's animated thing. Like,
Oh, okay.
this guy doesn't even have a picture on IMDb. And he only did 4 things, including Fraternity
Wasn't one
Row.
of them like animated tales from the Bible?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeesh.
there's not a lot on this movie.
Yeah, it would like. She's not kidding, folks. There's Rotten Tomatoes had no information.
Yeah.
We had to dig deep. We looked at. There was one article that was thankfully uploaded to the internet that was written in October 1977.
Yeah.
That we got some info from, but it wasn't really. There was some insight, but it was mostly just stuff that it didn't really help too much. It was
Yeah.
mostly like a critique of the movie with a
Yeah.
little bit of background info.
Yeah.
So
So the budget is unknown, although Paramount apparently purchased distribution rights for $937,000.
yep, that's in said article, which I don't have the name here, but again, it doesn't matter. It could be a load of crap. That's just the best we've got. Which means it didn't make its money back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So domestically, it grossed 290,674. Internationally, I don't know. It was released to other countries, but
Seems that way.
it didn't have any information on
Yeah.
what kind of money it made. So obviously, the worldwide total is the same.
Yeah, it said that with Paramount purchasing distribution rights, it would pay the salaries of the actors or whatever pro rata.
Mhm.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen it before. I don't actually know what it means. It's something to do with like salary and how it's paid out, obviously, but I don't know how it breaks down.
Yeah.
I've never had a job that I've had to worry about that too much. But if Paramount paid the filmmakers $937,000, and we're going off that information, and it made $290,674, then it obviously didn't make its money back in the production company's eyes.
Yep.
The in Paramount's eyes. So
yeah.
huge failure.
Yeah, for sure.
And we didn't adjust it for inflation, but it would have been, I don't know, $500,000
Yeah, not
profit,
much.
something like that.
And yeah, no rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. There was less than 50 audience ratings or whatever, and only one actual critic had put a thing down on there. So it was, I was going to say inconsistent. That's not the right word. Insufficient.
Yeah.
Insufficient to make
A proper rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got stuck like right into it because you actually have to research this. It's not like Star Wars last week where it was just like, here's everything.
Yeah.
It was we had to dig deep for this one, and we're not the best researchers.
Yeah, no.
So it was just nowhere. Yeah.
All right, so Fraternity Row is a story of an upper-class fraternity in the 1950s that explores the positive aspects of a fraternity while also delving deep into the dark side and troubles of fraternity life.
Mm-hmm. Don't look this movie up. If you haven't heard of it and you're interested in watching it, I'm going to say right now,
Yeah,
not going to spoil what I'm going to rate it, or I don't know what you're going to rate it, but I think it's worth watching.
yeah.
And if you're going to watch it, don't look it up.
Yeah, don't look up the summary that's online. Just go off our summary.
Because the IMDb summary and on Wikipedia as well spoils a pretty key aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
That we got spoiled and we expected said aspect to be the focus of the movie, but it's not. It's about what you just said there.
Yeah.
It's more like a slice of life thing, and said aspect is sort of like a twist to that. And that's all I want to say.
Yep.
I think it's definitely worth watching. There's not much to say story-wise. It's pretty plain. Not plain. Pretty by-the-numbers drama.
Yeah.
A few things happen here or there. And, there's some romances and there's some young love and pranks and issues and butting heads. The movie's set in 1954, so surprisingly not incredibly racist.
Yeah, just a little splash.
Yeah, and it seemed pretty self-aware. It's narrated by I can't remember the actor's name, but Roger.
Yeah,
it's him in the future or in present day quotes, 1977, narrating this his final year of college.
Yeah,
when he was pledge master for some pledges in his fraternity. They're new students who want to join the fraternity.
Yeah.
Yes, and he's in charge of their schedule and making sure that they're sticking to the fraternity's rules and all that sort of stuff, and traditions, and the other actives, as they're called, on that as well. But Roger really takes it on board, and then it's him recounting, his time doing that, and he says at the start, Gamma Nu Pi, which is the fraternity. They all have weird Latin names. They had the best swimmers or athletes, I think he says in general, but we see somebody swimming. Athletes, and they came from all the best places and that. And he's like, of course, none of them are black, Jewish, Asian, or...
I think he just says Jewish or black.
And he says none are on the GI Bill, so none of them are military involved.
Yeah.
Militarily
So it's
involved.
like upper class kids.
In the 50s.
With very rich, parents.
Yeah, you connect the dots. They're all a bunch of whiteys. All Anglo-Saxon, and I don't even think there's any Italians in there or anything, which might surprise people to know now that people who were Italian or Greek or anything like that, up until not even really that long ago, were treated pretty horribly.
Yeah.
And it's just all brushed over now, and it's a lot more, for lack of a better phrase, black or white now.
Yeah.
Whereas people used to be like individual country kind of racist. Like, oh, you come from there? Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It wouldn't even matter what their skin color was. It's like, you come... Which I suppose back then, I get, to an extent, Italy, because World War II just ended a few years before the setting of this movie. So Italians, which they were started off on the side of the Nazis and the Japanese Empire. So I kind of get that as like a, we don't trust you,
Yeah.
but it was just plain old racism for
Yeah.
most of it.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a very, very white movie.
Yeah, for sure.
There's only one person of color, let's say, and that is the, I don't want to say manservant, butler.
Yeah.
It's not really clear. He's just there and you only ever see him working for that guy, the
Yeah,
old guy. So
yeah.
I'm going to say butler to be generous.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah, true.
It's which is accurate. It's a very clear snapshot of the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been talking a lot. Is there anything you wanted to say about non-spoiler stuff?
Just that I wish it wasn't spoiled for us
Yeah,
before
true.
watching it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna watch this movie, yeah, don't look it up. Just watch it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we should tell them where you can watch it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just look it up on YouTube.
Yep.
It's there. Not rent or buy.
It's the whole movie.
It was just uploaded to YouTube.
Yep.
It's been there for like 6 years. We thought that it was fake at first because the opening credits seem like they're just like something else.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wait. And then I was like fact checking with what it had there as what
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
on the IMDb page. So it's legit.
Don't have to buy this movie.
You don't have to pay
Apparently
a
they
cent.
just don't care anymore.
Yeah. Oh, well, it happens. And especially
Yeah.
with a movie like this. But I'm glad because, you know, we got to watch it, no worries.
Yep. We didn't have to spend $5 on it.
All right. Well, if you've got no more spoiler talk and non-spoiler talk, and I've talked enough for 5 podcasts, we might move on to the spoilers.
Sounds good.
All right. You've been warned. It's spoiler time. If this is your first time, we do a little thing where we just like to flush out all the idiots who just keep listening and don't switch off. Where I just say whatever happened at the end.
Yeah.
And with this movie, you really don't want to know what happens at the end. So I'm just
Yeah.
giving you a little bit more time
Get out of here,
to
man.
bugger off. Okay? Zach Sterling, the second main character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Roger's the main character. Dies at the end.
Mm.
Chunk feeds him while he's blindfolded a piece of raw liver in part of the Griffin ceremony.
Yep.
To become, once they do that, they are actives. Like
Yeah.
that's the last thing.
Which is based off
Real things
a
that's
real
happened.
event,
Yes,
yeah.
the movie was originally going to be, or some version of this was originally going to be the thesis project for the movie, or something like this, or this story, or whatever. Was originally going to be the director's thesis project in college about a real hazing death,
Yeah.
where he choked on raw liver that was fed to him, and that is the aspect of the movie that was spoiled for us.
Yeah.
Which I think, when I thought that it was going to happen like early on or halfway through, it added a sense of dread to the entire movie.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I know someone's going to die.
Yeah.
When is it
When
going
is
to
it gonna
happen?
happen? Yeah.
And then I figured out when it was going to happen. I knew who it was going to be, Zach.
yeah.
You figured it out pretty early, but I was like, oh, I don't know. But then it pretty clearly was going that way.
Yep.
And it did add this sense of dread the entire time. That, I mean, if you did it right and you had, like, him narrate at the start, like, you know, the beginning of the best and worst year of my life and, like, the loss of one of my good friends and something like that. And then you're like, oh, shit, what happened? You know, then you have that sense of dread. But if you don't know, it would come out of nowhere like
Yeah.
a ton of bricks.
Yep.
Like, yeah.
If you didn't know that somebody was going to die, Zach's death would have come out of nowhere, like really sudden.
Like I just said.
Yeah. It is just like...
It does just happen, hey?
Yeah. It's so sudden.
You think that it's going to be like... You think that it's going to be like Roger's, you know, he does, that he's lost and tradition wins out over changing their ways and not being so cruel. But instead of like, because he walks up the stairs and everything, and if you're still listening, you know, you don't see it happen initially. Roger's walking up the stairs away slowly, like half turning back, like I should put an end to this, but then he doesn't, and he's walking up the stairs, and then he hears it get to Zach, and he turns back, then he stops, but then he hears that Zach starts choking, and he runs down, he runs in, and if you haven't seen the movie, and you aren't aware of the 1950s,
they didn't know how to save somebody who was choking.
I forgot to look it up.
Yeah.
But, I mean, why would the director make it that they didn't know how if they did?
And they did, like, all the wrong things.
Yeah, it was, my God, it was bad. The way that they were trying to give him, like, chest compressions, two of them were either side of him, and another one was, like, sort of over top of his legs.
Yeah.
Pressing down on his lower back, while the other two lifted his arms up like they were wings.
Yeah.
I guess to, like, puff the chest out, like...
Yeah.
But it doesn't work.
No.
And he was on his stomach.
Yeah.
Like, he was on his front. That doesn't make any sense. But they do say, don't put him on his back to the paramedic. And he's like, I've been doing this for 14 years. The kid's already dead. Like, he took one look at him and he was like, oh, he's purple. But just what a horrifying way to go.
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
Yeah, like, it was done really well. Compared to the rest of the movie, you know, there were some good bits, but that whole scene was never, like... It was very real and uncomfortable, and you felt like you were just watching...
Somebody choked to death.
Yeah, you were just watching a group of people just stand around not knowing what to do while somebody died in front of them. And I've never been in a room where somebody's died before, but I've been in situations before where you're 1 minute everything's all cool and funky, and the next minute something happens and it's like a shock. And that is just how it happens. Everybody just stands around and is like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And some people have big reactions and that, and there's the screaming and the yelling and the pushing, all 100% legit. That's exactly how it goes. It's not like it's not like in the movies where everybody's just unified and goes, oh, this has happened now, and oh, let's all work together.
Yeah.
People freak the fuck out and don't know what to do at all. And, like, Chunk's reaction was probably the most accurate, where he's like, nah, he's just faking, faking.
Yeah, get up,
not in
get
a
up.
mean way.
Yeah.
But, like, he was so scared.
Yeah.
You could hear it in his voice. He's like, no, he's just faking. Just get up, Zach, just get up. And he's just purple.
Yeah, because it's pretty much his fault.
Oh, 100% his fault. Heavy stuff. And you don't see it coming.
Yeah, no.
No, it seems way more about, like, can Roger and Zach break down these traditions and change the fraternity for the better?
Yeah.
Not will he survive?
Yeah, and, like, I kind of liked the lead up because it didn't make you feel like something really bad was going to happen, but it also kind of did, with Chunk, like, very subtly trying to, you know, put these pledges through hell, but not really succeeding, and then eventually he does.
But on, like, that aspect of it, there is the build up there. They didn't do a great job of it, because it was a lot of, like, little things.
Yeah,
instead
just
of
subtle.
Yeah, but Chunk was never, like, a malicious guy. His whole mindset is like, well, this happened to me.
Yeah.
This is how it's supposed to happen. Why can't I do that to them?
Yeah. He didn't mean to kill the guy.
No, he thought that he would give him the liver, he would swallow it like the other ones did before him, and then they'd laugh about it that night. They'd be like, you know, wasn't that funny? And then it's just like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And it just went wrong. And like in real life, when an accident happens, there's no build up. Nobody's like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. It just happens. And then everyone is just in stunned silence, like in this. And
Yeah.
I haven't been in a room where somebody's died, but I have been in a room where everyone is sitting around, thinking about how someone around their age has just suddenly died, a good friend of all of us, and it is exactly like that. Nobody's normal, everybody's just sort of wide-eyed staring at the floor, trying to figure out what the fuck, like how somebody who's only 18 could just be gone like that just because of an accident.
Yeah.
Malicious or otherwise. And it was just, yeah. And then the movie just ends.
Yeah. It's like the only time the movie properly portrayed like emotion.
Oh, that's a bit harsh.
You reckon?
I mean, they do.
Like real emotion.
Like real hardcore, not just casual. I know they portray horny pretty good.
Do they?
Is racist an emotion? Because there's that scene with the dance.
Yeah, I just mean like the choking part and then the part after that where they're all like in shock.
Yeah.
Was the only time that it didn't feel like they were acting.
Yes, and that's 100% accurate. Like, that's how it is. I've been there before, and that's just what it's like. Especially when you're young and you're just like, this kind of thing isn't supposed to happen to people our age, kind of thing. It's not something that it's pretty hard to fake that.
Yeah.
Like, not for the actors, but that vibe. You have to make that scene happen, you have to know what you're talking about. And I think they did a really good job.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we've covered the deep, dark, heavy part of the movie, like you said, emotions and stuff in this movie weren't really on full display. It was pretty, for most of it, meandering, kind of. Oh, that's a bit harsh. Just plain, normal slice of life stuff.
Yeah.
Other than like Roger getting pissed off with Chunk when he's like making Zach eat onions and stuff like that. And like Gregory Harris is that his name? Yeah. Does a good job of being like pissed off. Although I think that it was kind of wasted with the character arc that Zach has.
Yeah.
Because he's like super naive and seems to think that the extremely prejudiced Gamanu Pai is just going to welcome back Lloyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, I believed his acting and emotions, other than one scene, which was the Ditch Day arguments.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which was like, I don't know if that was like the first stuff that they filmed, but it was really, like, that was the worst stuff, I think.
It was very strange and out of nowhere.
Yeah, like, it felt the most acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, Zach and Jennifer, they start fighting for some reason. We don't know why. They have some sort of weird interaction before that about how the guy's house is so big and why does he need all that space. And then suddenly they're fighting and they're kneeling in like bushes on rocks.
But not right away.
Yeah.
They have the thing at the pool.
Yeah.
Then it cuts to Roger and, is it Angela? Or, no.
I don't remember her name.
His girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she's the racist one.
Yeah.
Like, blatantly.
Yeah.
She says the N-word.
Yeah, she does.
I
thought you were going to say it then, and I was like,
No.
Don't say it.
It's not that kind of podcast.
No. They're fighting.
Yeah, they're fighting, and it like cuts between
the two couples.
The party and the two couples. And Roger and his... I can't remember her name. Is it Ruth?
No.
Doesn't matter. Their argument is a lot more real, except for the ending.
Oh my god.
Where we might explain like what their argument's about
Okay,
later.
yeah.
But yeah, Jennifer and Zach are arguing, and then every time it cuts back to them, they're like doing something different.
Yeah.
It's like the first time he's swimming in the pool and she's sunbathing, and then the second time they're walking, and then the
Yeah.
third time, like you said, they're just squatting
Mm.
at some rocks, and they're having this such an intense argument about changing a system.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You can only change the system from the outside. You have to leave it and come." And he's like, I have to stay in the system and I can change it
Yeah.
from the inside. And they're just back and forth and screaming in each other's faces. And it's clearly like the director just went, you want to stay in the system and change it.
Mm-hmm.
You want him to leave the system because you're worried about him. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And then they stand up and he does like,
He goes to like grab her face.
I don't think he does that because it's like two hands together. It's more like a boy. It's more like that, but at her face, and she like jolts back.
Yeah.
And it felt very natural and real, except the dialogue was just whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just them
Very weird.
just them yelling at each other. But the acting, like he's good. Peter Fox is good.
Mm.
He's good at being very calm. When he gets angry, it doesn't always come across as well.
Yeah.
But he's not terrible. Scott Newman sometimes felt like he was just reading lines.
Yeah, like most of the other actors, other than Roger and Peter Fox and Gregory Harrison, everyone else kind of just seemed like they were waiting for the other person to finish talking.
Yeah.
And then it was their turn to say their lines, and then do this, and then do that.
Yeah.
And there's even like some parts like when Roger and his girlfriend are fighting, and he, like, the camera's on him, he takes a couple steps, she's standing behind him after he takes 2 steps, then she starts talking to him, but it's clearly in the middle of their conversation.
Yeah, and it's like really clear and obvious blocking and choreography, I suppose you'd call it, or whatever, where it's not how people act, but for 90% of the movie, it's very natural and they all walk around and talk normally. But in this one scene, it's very forced and very put on.
Yeah.
Which makes me feel like it was the first thing that they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
Nancy Morgan, I think, played Jennifer. I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure that was in it. I did?
Nancy Morgan.
Oh, I wrote it down there. Fuck, I'm good. I am.
We have papers for a reason.
I am too good. Anyway, Nancy Morgan, plays Jennifer. She's pretty good, but there's sometimes where she's just like, what is she doing? Like when her and Zach are being all flirty and they're wearing the drama, like the olden day clothes.
Yeah.
And she's like, he says, "Aren't you embarrassed?" And she goes, "No."
Yeah, she does like this big laugh that doesn't
You were
going to
say horse mouth.
Horse mouth, yeah. I don't want to be mean.
It's not a good look. She's quite an attractive young woman, or she was in this movie. But in that scene, I think it's the angle that they film her at. It's almost like below her eye line.
Yeah.
So it makes her mouth look bigger for
like
some
huge,
reason. Yeah. There's not too many like big faults in the acting. It's just
they're just acting.
Yeah.
It's not very natural.
You can tell it's very much like a college movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're just lucky that it got picked up.
Yeah.
For distribution. There's a lot of in that scene.
Sorry. When you say that, like, that's exactly what it is. It's like a movie that you show to your class as like a learning thing.
That's why it's weird, because that's sort of how it started.
Yeah.
And then it got picked up for theatrical release. So it must have had some money behind it to be noticed. So it's kind of like in between. It's half student film, half theatrical film.
Yeah.
Which is why it has the producer's name as a whatever movie, not the directors.
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have put money behind it.
Yeah.
Or that was the producer from Paramount. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, I don't know. What are we talking about? Where are we? Who am I? That scene with where they're in the fancy clothes. That's a good example of how it's a lot of the time it's just shot reverse shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just him talking, then her talking, then him talking, then her talking.
Yeah.
There are some inspired things like that. I say inspired, like her walking away and it's following her, and then
and he's behind.
and then he catches up. I
Yeah.
like that, and the way Roger walks up the stairs, and we can hear what's going on downstairs, and then he comes running back down. There was through the dance. I like that, how they were doing the dance and the camera's moving. And if you look really closely, you do see Jennifer at the end step out of the way of the camera.
I did notice that, yeah.
But I forgive it because it's hard to do that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
I thought that was neat. Like
I
instead
only
of
noticed it the second time we watched.
yeah, instead of showing same actually, because
Yeah.
I didn't think about it the first time.
Mm.
Instead of just having the dance and then cutting to the others,
Uh-huh.
having it go through over to them, I really like that.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of other bits, nothing too crazy, but just little things like that I thought were neat.
Mm.
The things like the zoom in on Zach's speech at the start, like pretty early on, was
Yeah,
kind
when
of
they
strange.
get back from like
Yeah.
the pledge thing
He does the kind of speech you do
at
like,
the end of the movie.
either at the end of the movie or like at like the second act.
Yeah.
And then, like something bad happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seemed kind of thrown in there.
Mm.
Or have it like end with his speech.
Yeah.
Like instead of
Like play it again at the end or something.
yeah, or like he starts the speech and then it fades to them talking.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie we hear the whole speech.
Mm.
And it would be like a really grim thing where he has this whole speech about brotherhood and he
Mhm.
never had brothers growing up, but he feels like, and he ends it with we'll be brothers and friends until we die.
Yeah.
And then he dies. Drama.
Yeah. See, I like forgot about that
Theme.
speech.
Yeah.
The more the movie went on, because that was very early.
Yeah, because it was wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that was another thing where, yeah, like the director could have put that in a better place or something, because the acting was quite good.
Yeah.
And it's the same as the speech that came not long before it, the long names and details speech came. I don't think you'd even need it.
I think you mean when Roger was proving that, like, he learned everyone's background.
Yeah, and that they can do it too.
Yeah, I think he only needed to do it with, like, maybe 3.
Which is what I thought. And then he was like, and you, and you,
Yeah,
and you,
and he did it with every single one of them. It was, like, far out. Yeah, that was too long.
That was way too long.
Yep.
There was something else I was going to say about one of those. I forgot to write it down. It doesn't matter. Must not have been very important.
Scranton.
Yes, they're from Scranton. Most of them are from Scranton, as in the Electric City. No, there was something with Chunk.
And yes, his name is Chunk Cherry.
Yes, Chunk Cherry.
Yeah.
Jennifer calls him like a bunch of different names, one that I won't repeat for fear of it being taken out of context. She calls him like,
Oh my god.
or like something like that. I'll blurt that out. So only Demi got to hear that. I think that's what she calls him. It's bad. People who've watched the movie will probably know what I'm talking about. I was
Yeah.
like, ooh, you wouldn't get away with that today.
No.
But you would get away with what the other woman says because it was to highlight racism.
Yeah.
Yeah, when she calls it an N-word dance.
Yeah, which is just so random. Like I didn't understand what she was saying. They were all just dancing together, and then Chunk and that that girl that
Yeah.
we can't remember the name of had like a real problem with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she's like, "That's some N-word dance."
Why is nobody dancing with each other? That's
Yeah.
exactly it. If you haven't seen the movie, that's how Chunk talks. Why is nobody dancing? Nobody.
Nobody.
Why is nobody dancing with each other? Huh?
That's just some N-word dance.
And he's like, I'm horny. Speaking of, like, that doesn't work. I was trying to think of a clever segue. No, the sound of the movie is very different how they do it today.
Yeah, you can hear fucking everything. You can hear the walking. You can hear their clothes shuffling.
Yep.
Everything.
It's pretty clear that they didn't have like a sound design budget. So it's just, yeah, we'll just pick up the sound in the hallways. It's fine.
Yeah, of like people shuffling through.
It's just like you talk and I'll like just say something and I'll just try to mimic it.
So Chunk, what are you doing?
Yeah, what were you doing the other day, man?
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's just all the walking, the squeaking of people's shoes,
Yep.
people's conversations in the background.
Yeah, doors
Yeah.
closing. Yeah,
Ugh.
it's bad.
It's bad in like the big scenes, but it was not too bad in the outdoor scene with Zach and Jennifer for some reason.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know why they did it good in some bits and not others. I don't know enough about it. Yeah, I mean that's all like the technical stuff, but the story I think was pretty solid. Like the actual story,
Yeah.
not key individual scenes, but the actual story itself was pretty good in the themes and all that of like brotherhood and to a lesser extent sisterhood and what comes with that was done quite well. And like they didn't show too much of the sorority, but you were like, what the fuck is any of this?
Yeah, it's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, I think that it's the fraternity stuff. I'm like, that hasn't changed much. That's very much how it still is. But all that sorority stuff is, a lot of it got thrown out the window as far as I know.
Yeah, well, it's just weird. You talking about like
The candle.
Yeah.
If you've, I think, what we think is, if you've lost your virginity and you're making your relationship official, and you're in, their house was Kappa something, and the fraternity was Gamma Nu Pi, and they're a brother and sister house.
Yeah.
It's already weird. And a lot of them they did say are related some way. So
that's weird.
there is a line, there's a lot of interbreeding or inbreeding, I think.
Inbreeding, yeah.
And yeah, you make your relationship official. There's like a little ceremony where you have to, if you're the girl, you blow out the candle to announce that it's you.
Yeah, so hang on.
All right.
All the
you tell it
girls
then.
are like all lined up on the stairs and like down the whatever. And they pass the candle along to each girl. And then eventually, when it gets to the girl who's wants to make their relationship official, she blows it out. So some of the girls like fake it and like, pretend to blow the candle out. But then it gets to Roger's girlfriend and she blows it out and they all scream and hug each other and everything. But they all already knew that they were a couple. So I think that after you've had sex, then you can make your relationship public because they sing about like, so they pin.
There's a song about putting a pin and
so they like
giving you
wear
my
a
heart.
pin on their shirts to say like we're in a relationship, and then they sing the boys sing about losing virginity.
It's like, first of all, they sing the song. It's like Kappa something. Please come out, and then they come out, and then the girls sing the pin song, and then the boys sing. It's like, it's like a story of like a Gamma singing to a Kappa, and then it's like something. You've lost your virginity. You've now lost your virginity, or something like that. It like goes like that's how the note ends. Is on virginity.
Yeah.
and then the song ends, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like what? And yeah, I don't know. And so I guess like, but that's like Zach and Jennifer.
Say like one more time.
Like Zach and Jennifer are, I would say, in a relationship,
Yeah.
but they just call each other friends because they haven't had that ceremony to make
Yeah,
it official.
he says, I want to be your friend.
Yeah, but I
Man, the
can't do this
50s
right
was
now.
so weird.
So that's why I think you have to have sex with each other and then you can make your relationship official, and before that you're just friends.
Or maybe you have to make it official to lose your virginity. So now that they're pinned, they can have sex.
Yeah, maybe. Either way, it was like
I don't know which one's worse.
Yeah. It was like a wedding ceremony.
Yeah. Well, as I said, we're married. We got married. It was less weird than that. We didn't have a choir of women and a choir of men.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have all my mates doing a song about how we're going to go and have sex now. Like, ooh.
We should have.
Oh, yeah. I regret everything.
Oh,
but
it's weird.
all the girl stuff is so different now.
Yeah.
Like, to the best of my knowledge, there's no fucking candles and pins and
or wearing completely white wedding dresses.
yeah, like a debutante thing for the
pledges.
Yeah. But
like they
all
were in full-on white dresses holding flowers.
But all the guy stuff, I was like, this could have been made last week.
Yeah.
You know, they're all like acting like a bunch of hooligans and dressing up in like gladiator outfits and as cavemen and stuff to go to the big fancy ball thing, and they like eat onions and like as punishment, and get liver down the throat to become an active member and all that kind of shit. And I'm like, that is still going on.
Yeah,
like that hasn't changed. Which, take from it what you will, but girls have come a long way, and boys are just like, yeah, no, we'll just do the same shit.
Yeah.
Since before the 30s.
Yeah. What you mean to say is like girls and women aren't so sexualized anymore. In that sort of sense.
They're very sexualized. I would say they're less objectified.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the word. Like publicly objectified.
Mm.
Because when
Depends on who you're asking, I suppose.
When they meet up, like the brother and sister fraternity houses or whatever, that's pretty much just like a place to like meet the other people, but also match up with a guy.
Yeah.
Because like it's not okay unless you have a guy.
Mm-hmm. And it has to be a gamma.
Yeah.
It has to be a guy from the fraternity. You can't go out with a guy from somewhere else, or if you do, you can't let anyone know because it's not how it works. It's not on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much
definitely
an event
different for women these days.
To choose which one's going to be your boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh,
Yikes.
sorry, friend. Friends that you kiss and fondle.
But, I mean, it wasn't all roses for the boys back then. Like, and it's still the same now with, like, that, in quotes, brotherhood. And I can attest to some of it. I've never been in a fraternity before, but I did play rugby league for most of my life, and I can vouch for that sense of, like, as anyone who's been in a team sport with people for a long time, or even if it's only been like that year, or I guess like the military would be a similar one, or a frat house, or some sort of team where you have another layer, like not a workplace, but you have another layer of like, and I can't speak for women, so I'll just say like brotherhood with, you know, that other person, where it's not just that you're friends, like there's another layer to it. And I have had times where I've been in trouble, like mostly out running amok, and I've had people who I don't even see that much, but because we have that connection, have helped me out, you know, multiple times, and vice versa. And that is a really good thing. But there is a dark side to it, where if you go against that, or you're not a part of it, it's it gets dark.
Yeah.
Like, you get shut out pretty badly, or,
Yeah.
flat out abused. And yeah,
Yeah.
it gets ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie does a good job of showing that. There's the Red Scare with Lloyd Pope's dad.
Yep.
He's one of the pledges. His dad is the director of foreign affairs with China or something like that, and he's accused of being a communist.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 50s, that might as well be a death sentence.
Yeah.
So he resigns, and Lloyd is blackballed, which I never knew where that expression came from. Blackballed.
Yeah.
But it's a voting system. They vote, and then you get given a black ball and you're out. I'd never known where it came from, but I'd heard it a million times, and it was nice to get some context. He's voted out, and then later on,
his father
is
not guilty.
Proven innocent.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because there's still dirt on that name.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't want to come back anyway, like Roger says. And then that's what leads to Zach almost quitting.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, of course this extremely prejudiced fraternity is just going to kick someone out because they might be different.
Yeah,
a
sure.
dirty commie. Which, back then, there was an expression, better dead than red, in the 50s.
Yeah.
So... yeah. And at first I had written Red Scare stuff is pointless. And then I pretty quickly realized it's to highlight how they might call themselves brothers or each other brothers and say, friends till we die.
Yep.
Unless you're different.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I just crossed that part out.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Yeah.
But and it all works and leads up to the ending. And like, the little bits of like the sorority stuff and the fraternity stuff with like the actives and the pledges, it's pretty similar. It's just that the sorority stuff is seen as so innocent.
Yeah.
When it's just a different kind of malicious.
Yeah.
And more under the surface.
Yeah.
Whereas the fraternity stuff is like they're wearing robes and pretending to be a griffin and praying to a griffin before the start of every meeting. And it's real weird.
Yeah.
Because, Roger has a line about it when he's narrating about how if they all realized how simple brotherhood could be, they'd probably run because they have to add layers of ritual and all this stuff onto it. And I'm like, yeah, that really speaks to how these days it's different, but a lot of the time men will come up with a reason for why they have to hang out.
Yeah.
Why you can't just be friends with somebody and be there for your friend. There has to be like a bigger reason. Not just you're my friend. It's, well, we belong to the same fraternity, so that's why we're friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these days it's a bit better, but there is still a lot of that, and
yep.
I'm guilty of it a lot of the time. So, yeah. And we already talked about the death of Zach, so we're not going to go over that again.
Yeah.
But we talked about this for longer than I expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad, yo. It was really grim. Like, I know we're not going to talk about it a lot, but it was really grim.
Yeah.
That's a horrible way to die.
Yeah, that was so awful.
Oh.
And to watch, like, you watched the whole thing. You hear him try to swallow it, but then after that you watch everything.
He's blindfolded at first.
Yeah.
So like, imagine being blindfolded and then
choking.
Just something is put into your mouth and you start choking. Like, what it's scary. Like, it's just scary.
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I rate Fraternity Row cash.
Do you?
Yes.
I don't.
That's fine. In my head then, I was like, still very much like, ooh.
Yeah.
But I walked away from this movie with too many good things to say, and it made me feel too many emotions to say that it was a bad movie.
Fair enough.
This isn't like Bad Moon where I like it, but I
it's
know
bad.
it's bad.
This movie is like, it sounds crap most of the time. It doesn't look very good. The acting's not crash hot, but it has, like you say, makes you feel something.
Mm.
I didn't probably feel as much.
I think maybe it was the relatability of the brotherhood aspect and
Yeah.
how I've been in situations similar to that before, or not even that, but the men in this movie, or boys, I should say, even though they're adults, they act like boys. I've met people just like that before, all of them. And it just struck a chord with me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put
Fair
it.
enough.
Yeah. If it didn't have that ending.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
What were you going to say,
I was just going to say, I'm going to say trash.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Fair enough. It's not like, don't get me wrong, this isn't like a strong cash.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I'm a big fan of a good ending. If there's anyone who's ever seen Game of Thrones, everyone knows the tragedy there. But it's not just that. Like, a lot of TV shows and movies just sort of end, either predictably, or TV shows are really bad for it, where they just don't really end. They just go, because it's scary. But I think that this movie fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
So that's what we liked and didn't like about Fraternity Row. This is part 2 of 1977. We did Star Wars, or Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, last week.
Yep.
And we like to just, at the end of the part 2 episode, just look at why the highest grossing was the highest grossing and the lowest grossing out of the top 200 is...
Or in this case, top 35.
Yeah, what we could find. Why it was at the bottom.
Yeah.
And, all the same stuff. It's a fair fight. They got released to roughly the same amount of countries. And movies get extended runs if they're popular, and all that sort of stuff. So why didn't it muster up the same amount of money, or anywhere near the same amount of money? It was just by chance. I was listening to a podcast called Smartless, with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. I almost said Sean Levy. Sean Hayes. And Will Arnett, they were talking to J.J. Abrams, and he told half a story about when the first Star Wars came out, because he was a kid, and his kids asked him, like, why was this so important and whatever. It's like Star Wars. And he's like, because before Star Wars came out, nobody had ever seen anything like this at the movies. There were like Flash Gordon, which is what inspired George Lucas and all that. But to go to the movies and see this, it was the first time ever that this kind of thing, like how it looked and the story and everything, was at the movies. And that's why. And I think he put it perfectly into words.
Yeah.
Like, no other movie that year could have even come close to Star Wars, let alone Fraternity Row, which is like I guess a decent TV movie these days.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got the game changer, probably the most, or one of the most, but it's like top 5, if not top 3 most influential films of all time, versus a very by the book standard movie.
Yeah.
Very much what you've seen before, what we'll go on to see again with Fraternity Row, versus something nobody's ever seen before, and like something that nobody thought would work, succeed.
Yeah.
It's most times we can go, well, it's pretty obvious, but this time it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Fraternity Row is like an ant up against a nuclear bomb. It is just, there is no perceivable future or timeline where Fraternity Row beats Star Wars.
No way.
So yeah, it's not hard to see why.
Yeah.
Although this was competently made, I feel, for the time.
Yeah, it was just very safe and familiar, I
Yes.
suppose.
I think it was let down by the budget
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and obviously what we would call today an indie movie is how I would describe this.
Yeah.
Independent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think good on them.
Yeah.
It's commendable that
Yeah.
they got this movie put out there, and yeah.
Yeah.
More people should see it.
Mm.
So, yeah. No worries. Did you have anything to say?
Oh, pretty much just the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you going to say the thing about Smartless?
No, I didn't listen to that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you should.
Okay.
Check out Smartless. Hopefully they'll shout us out.
Oh my god, could you imagine? Jason Bateman saying the name of our podcast.
Why Jason Bateman? Why do you single him out?
Because he's my fave of the three.
Imagine if they had Jeff Goldblum on there.
Oh my god.
I shouldn't have said that.
Let's not get into Jeff Goldblum talk. We'll save it.
Yeah. Well, with that, why don't you tell the people where else they can find us?
Yep. So we have a Patreon. If you want to support us, we'd really appreciate it. Please check that out. We also have an Instagram. Our handle is @CashVersusTrashPod. Our listening apps are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and Stitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few more. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, should be pretty easy to find us.
Yeah. And you can also listen to us on YouTube. All the links will be in the description. I don't think I ever get that right.
You made it.
Thank you.
Cut up, bloody, bruised, but you made it through that. Yeah. If you want to get in contact with us, you can message us on Instagram or comment on YouTube or whatever. But the best place to do it would be to email us at cashversustrashpod@gmail.com. That's all lowercase. It'll be in the description as well. Come straight through to me on my phone, as I say every week. Yeah, nobody emails. No. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Next week, we will be doing... This is the end of 1977. Next week, we will be doing 1982 with E.T., the Extraterrestrial.
Yep.
E.T. phone hole.
One of my childhood fave movies.
I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through.
I don't remember any of it. I just know that I liked it. Yeah.
But you said the same thing about the Never-Ending Story.
I know. And then I watched it again recently and I was like, my God, this movie sucks.
Well, as far as I can remember, the Never-Ending Story is not as highly regarded as E.T. is.
Yeah.
So you should be lucky.
Okay. We'll find out next week.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. This has been the Cash vs. Trash podcast.
See ya.